friends, welcome back to Food Prep Guide. Have you ever wondered which garden plants actually save you money instead of just looking pretty? Don't get me wrong, I love planting beautiful things just for the joy of it, but I also need my garden to make sense financially. After tracking my grocery bills for several years, I've discovered 5 backyard plants that cut my food costs not just by hundreds, but by thousands of dollars over the course of a year. Each of these 5 that I'm about to mention are all pretty simple to grow. They don't need fancy equipment and they taste way better than what you'll find at the store. If you'll hang out with me for the next few minutes, I'll share exactly which plants give the most value for your time and space and share a few growing tips along the way. Let's get started. If you would like help planning a productive garden, scroll down to the description box of this video and click this link for a free garden printable. We calculated quantities for a year's supply of the most common garden vegetables and organized them into a neat chart to help you plan. We'll send it straight to your inbox. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming tutorials on gardening and food preservation, food storage, and more. First on the list is onions. I recommend planting both regular storage onions and green onions since they're used pretty differently. They grow at different rates and they produce in different amounts, and it's really helpful to have both. Onions are extremely day length specific, so you need to match the type of onion you grow to where you're located in the country. Dixondale Farms has an excellent map on their website to help with this. Let's talk about the savings and why onions made the cut. With onions, you can use every part of the plant. One of the main things we make with onions each year is an onion relish. We use the main part of the onion, the bulb, and we just mince it up and cook it in a sweetened vinegar brine and then use this for year-round use in all sorts of dishes. I'll link the tutorial in the description box below. Also, don't throw away those onion peels and those scraps. You want to save the ends and outer layers, put them in gallon-sized freezer bags, and you can use that to make homemade broth throughout the year. It costs nothing since you are probably going to toss those scraps anyway, either into the compost pile, out to the chickens, or even into the trash can, but you can turn that into excellent broth. We have a video on making onion broth step by step, specifically onion scrap broth, and I will link that in the description box as well. As for the green tops, you can dehydrate them and grind them into an onion powder. A tiny jar of that costs around $5 at the store, and you can make it for essentially for free. I also freeze-dry diced onions for cooking with throughout the year. And finally, onions are key ingredients in our homemade salsa and spaghetti sauce, which means we're not having to go buy those for recipes, which just means more savings in our pocket. When added up, growing my own onions has saved us well over $200. Number 2 is peppers. These are serious money savers. I mean, have you seen the prices of peppers at the store? Sometimes it's $2 or more for a single bell pepper. Meanwhile, one pepper plant can produce 20 or more peppers over the season. If you are brand new to growing peppers, I recommend starting with bell peppers and jalapenos if you want something spicy. They're straightforward to grow and incredibly versatile. Plant them about 18 inches apart in a sunny spot after all danger of frost has passed, and be sure to feed it with nitrogen. Here's how I maximize my pepper harvest. First, they are essential ingredients in our homemade salsa, relishes, and sauces. And so making all of these ourselves instead of having to buy each of those category of foods saves us hundreds of dollars a year just on that. But I also pickle a bunch of our peppers. They are perfect as pizza toppings, chopped up in pasta salad sauces, and added to sandwiches. Some peppers also get dehydrated and powdered to make our own homemade seasoning blends. Those little tiny jars of cayenne pepper at the store they're only about 6 to 7 peppers inside that jar, and could cost you pennies to grow versus having to buy the seasonings at the store, which are always overpriced. I also slice and freeze peppers for quick additions to fajitas, quesadillas, and stir-fries throughout the fall and winter. Number 3 is tomatoes. If there is a champion money-saving plant, it is definitely tomatoes. Store-bought tomatoes not only cost a fortune, but they also taste like, I don't know, they don't have much taste at all, which is the problem. But homegrown tomatoes are so full of flavor. For beginners, I recommend starting out with a Roma or a cherry tomato. They are forgiving and extremely productive. If you have more space, try the beefsteak varieties. Plant them 24 inches apart with some good support from cages or stakes, especially if you are growing an indeterminate variety of tomatoes. You're going to need to support those with some sort of trellis. If you are very tight on space, stick to determinate varieties. Now, the savings with tomatoes come from both their abundance and just the different ways that they can be used. The main use in our house is our homemade salsa and spaghetti sauce. A jar of good quality pasta sauce costs between $4 and $5 in my area, but we can make it for less than $1 per jar when we grow our own tomatoes. We personally go through about 50 quarts of pasta sauce a year. We're a family of 5, so that's $200 to $250 savings right there, and that's only one use, just one of the many products that we make with it. There's so much more you can do, excuse me, with tomatoes. In fact, one tip I have for you is don't throw away the skins when you're processing tomatoes. Dehydrate them and grind into a tomato powder, and you can use that to make tomato paste, tomato sauce, and it's great for just sprinkling in and adding depth to soups and stews and chilies. You could also save any leftover juice that's left over during the processing in other ways. You can can that and just have tomato juice on your shelf. We also make our own pizza sauce, barbecue sauce, and Rotel-style canned tomatoes for a fraction of what they cost at the store. One of my new favorite ways that will always be in my pantry from now on that we use tomatoes is our tomato basil sandwich spread. A similar item at the store is around $6 a jar, and it's only about 4 or 5 ounces. And you generally have to go to like a specialty store or the high-priced organic section to find it, but it costs me next to nothing to make, especially considering that we grow from seed. Considering all of the tomato products that we make and therefore don't have to buy, we save well over $500 a year just from growing tomatoes. Number 4 is potatoes. Potatoes might not seem very exciting, but they are budget powerhouses that can fill hungry bellies for very little money. For beginners, I recommend Yukon Gold or Red Pontiac as they are very reliable. You can grow potatoes in the ground, raised beds, or even containers and bags. Each seed potato that you plant can yield 5 to 10 potatoes in return, and you really don't even have to buy those sometimes pricey, excuse me, y'all, I'm recovering from some kind of cold. You don't have to buy those pricey seed potatoes if you don't want to. Organic grocery store potatoes grow just fine as long as they are organic. It means they haven't been sprayed with a growth inhibitor. I have planted those and grown those for years with no issue. Here's how we maximize our potato harvest. We can a bunch of potatoes plain, just like in chunks for quick side dishes, but we also go ahead and season some jars with herbs like rosemary, thyme, salt, and pepper for near instant side dishes or near instant mashed potatoes. We also dehydrate potatoes in different forms. We do shredded for hash browns, slices for casseroles, and dices for things like soups and stews. That said, with proper curing and storage in a cool, dark place, potatoes can last up to 6 months just as is with no preservation needed. The best thing about potatoes is how they stretch meals. Y'all have seen me talk about this so much on the channel. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but adding potatoes to a meal can often double how many servings you get. And when you think of it that way, it's really hard to calculate the yearly savings. Potatoes just play a crucial role in keeping our monthly grocery budget as low as possible. Last but not least, number 5 is salad greens. The cost of those pre-washed bags at the store is outrageous when you consider how easy it is to grow greens. I recommend planting a mixture of greens, like all different sorts of lettuce varieties, plus your kale, spinach, Swiss chard, that kind of thing. They're all pretty low maintenance, and they give you different textures and different nutrients. You want to plant them in partial shade in cooler seasons like spring and fall, with a little bit of protection like cold frames or a frost blanket. You can even grow through winter in many climates. Part of the money-saving aspect with greens is that they grow so quickly. Many are ready to harvest in as little as 30 to 40 days. They're also cut and come again plants, meaning you can harvest the outer leaves while letting the center of the plant continue to grow. Throughout the season, you want to be sure to feed and side dress with some nitrogen-rich fertilizer. Nitrogen is the component of a plant nutrient that is responsible for the leafy green growth. And since our salad greens are essentially leaves, they need nitrogen throughout the growing season. As for savings, I think about how I eat a salad about 4 times a week. And let's just pretend that if I didn't grow my greens, I would buy one of those small $5 to $6 pre-made bowls at the store. That's $24 a week and $1,248 a year. That is just incredible, and what a blessing it is to grow greens in our backyard. Okay, y'all, I hope that was helpful to you. If you are brand new to gardening, I hope you consider these plants in your garden as a great place to start, where you will really start seeing a difference in your grocery budget. These 5 plants really are worth their weight in gold, and that's not even considering the improved flavor and the nutrition that you get from garden fresh produce. That's all for today, and we'll see you next time. Bye!